authors. Any content provided by our bloggers or authors are of their opinion and are not intended to malign any religion, ethnic group, club, organization, company, municipality, individual, or anyone or anything.
He's a surgeon. He's a 100-ton boat captain. He's a lieutenant on Seaside Heights Beach Patrol in New Jersey. He's a member of the Coast Guard Auxiliary. He's Dr. Michael Kachmar. Need answers to your medical questions? We have them. Listen in to hear latest on medical topics related to all that and more.
Hello, everyone. This is Dr. Michael Kachmar. How is everyone doing today? Today is Scrubbing Up with Dr. Michael Kachmar, and we're having some technical difficulty already. How's everyone doing today? And thank you for tuning in. This is today is April the 21st, the year of our Lord, 2023 AD, and I'm Dr. Kachmar. This is Scrubbing Up. This is a medical, we do a little political stuff here, show. I'm a foot and ankle surgeon, a board certified reconstructive foot and ankle. I'm on staff at multiple hospitals. I've been in practice for about 30 years, and I just finished operating all morning. I did 3 cases this morning. We have our co-host here, Sean.
Hello.
He's a throwback from our Lifeguards Off Duty show. And we have our studio here. Here's our beautiful studio where everybody could see it. And so anyway, we have this show we do every week. We try to concentrate on medical, political stuff that I think is important, what's going on in the world. Today we have some good topics. So what we're going to talk about, everything in the world that's going on right now, especially with the transgender and equality. We've been talking about this thing that, my world and my life has always been equality of opportunity. That's been the big thing. Kennedy talked about that. John F. Kennedy, Franklin Delano Roosevelt, Lincoln. So equality of opportunity. Everybody should have equal opportunity. Well, the new thing now that's out there is equality of outcome, and which is equity. So I'm looking at this, and I said to myself, this looks familiar to me. I'm 66 years old, and back in the 60s and 70s, with the Carter administration, he was after Nixon. Carter, there was Ford, then Nixon. Nixon, then Ford, then Carter. And Carter, they started this thing called affirmative action. So we're going to talk about affirmative action, but I have it here on the whiteboard. And so, is affirmative action, or is equality of outcome, which is equity, just a roundabout or a end run around the problems of affirmative action? We're going to explain what affirmative action is, what the problems were back in those days, where there was challenges to it, how it, to a lot of people, was unfair, and just like everything else, the original thought about original idea of affirmative action was to help minorities come into the mainstream, but of course it got abused. It caused division, and it was a unattainable goal the way they set it up. So now I think they came around, repackaged it, and call it now equality of outcome or equity. So is equity another form of affirmative action, and are they different, and what are they same? So it's a complicated concept, but everything in the news now, everything is equity, and equity, diversity. So I just want to throw it out that we've been down this road before, and there's predictable outcomes. A lot of young people like you, Sean, you never heard, you weren't around for affirmative action, but now you're living here through equity, and it's all new and it's exciting, and oh wow, it could be work, it could be good, it could be bad. I'm telling you, I'm going to try to show you some of the pitfalls of affirmative action, which I think is really the same thing as equity, and vice versa. Okay. So, all right. So anyway, what we're going to do is let's go to our first article here. So pull up. This is cut 1. So this is what does affirmative action affirm? Oh, there was another one before that I thought, but let's just say.
Do you want to go on this one? What?
Well, let's just talk about this one. We could go here. Let's just go. So this is an article. This is go up. This is old article now. When were you born, Sean?
1997.
Okay, so this article was March 1st, 1992. Okay?
It outdates me.
I mean, I was out of college. I was out of medical school. I had, 2 years of practice underneath my belt, So already I was there. So this is an article. So let's just go down, read it a little bit for people who are on the podcast who can't see this. So this is an interesting thing. This is to give you a flavor of what affirmative action has did. And am I in the box somewhere here? Or is this just?
I can make it.
Yeah, just put me in the box. Somewhere. It's got to hit, I think, over here. So we get a little. Yeah, there you go. So let's. So here it is. So this is an article. A woman wrote this, and she goes. Recently, I learned that a friend of mine had been passed over for tenure at an Ivy League school. This was surprising to me. He had been teaching at the university for several years and was immensely popular, not only with the students, but also within the department. With a book and several journal articles to his credit, his qualifications were in good order. So what was the problem? He explained it to me. He was a white male in a department that needed more visible women and minorities. Never mind that the women hired had less experience and fewer credentials. Never mind that the university had been grooming him for the position. Indeed, the department head couldn't even look him in the eye while breaking the news. Never mind that my friend is now so embittered that he tells his male students to forget pursuing a degree in humanities because credentials and quality don't matter anymore. If you're white and male, he insists, there will be no place for them in academia. Now, this is there's something to stop here. That's a lot to unload. First of all, that's what, 30 years ago?
Just about.
So we're bitching the same thing 30 years ago as now. Seems like nothing changed, right?
Yeah, I don't really see a lot of dudes in humanities academia in
Well, anyway.
30 years later.
So it was bitching back then. But the thing about here, what gets me about this is that they brought in people, minorities, women, whatever you want to say, but they weren't qualified or as qualified as this individual. And that was the problem with affirmative action. So so it says, I hope he has underestimated case, but I understand this bitterness. It is difficult not to rail against unfairness when there is next to no recourse against it. Now it says, if my friend were a woman, he could sue the university for unfair employment practices under Title 7 of the Civil Rights Act of 64. The act states that it is unlawful for an employer to fail or refuse to hire or discharge any individual or otherwise to discriminate against any other individual with respect to his compensation, terms, or privileged employment because of such individual's race, color, religion, sex, or national origin. So it says to bring the suit, he would have to belong to a class protected by Title VII, and he would have to be a woman or minority. So anyway, this whole thing is an interesting argument. I look at it a couple ways. They were bitching about, minority hiring 30 years ago. Mm-hmm. Nothing's changed. We're still bitching about it.
Yeah.
Okay, we're still bitching about it. So number one, in that regard, you can say, well, did anything change? And so does the bitching now in the minority hiring, is it anything to be worried about? Because it's been going on for 30 years.
I have to imagine. Yeah, Cash, try not to cough into the mic.
I know. Sorry.
I have to imagine the difference is there's more people like this guy complaining about the other side, because there's definitely more minorities in the workforce right now, which is a good thing.
Well, let me ask you this though: when does the white male Christian become a minority, and then avail themselves of minority status and then could sue for discrimination? When is the goose good for the gander? When does it change? I mean, if you have a college and there's like 3 white guys and they fire you and there's 200-300 other people, is that something to is it change? So, but I want to make a point here. I want to stay on topic here. The problem with the problem with affirmative action back in the day is that they started getting rid of people who were qualified. Forget about if they're white, they're black. Most of the people were white, but they got rid of people who had the qualifications and brought in people who were not as qualified. And there was a lot of lawsuits, okay? They were brought in. Just go down a little bit, or to the end.
We're right here.
Yeah, but I want you to go down, yeah. So stop here. The spirit of affirmative action. I want to get a good definition of affirmative action so we can compare it to equality of outcome and equity. So the spirit of affirmative action seems different from its words. However, To understand the spirit is it necessary to examine the root of the issue in the context of the feminist movement. Now remember, back in my day, it was the feminists, it was the women. Blacks were able to vote in this country before women were able to vote.
Yes.
And women got the vote, in the 20s? So think about it. Women didn't vote for a long, long time. They were a significant minority. Mm-hmm. They weren't in politics. They weren't in anything. They were powerful. They were behind very powerful men, but they weren't there. So first, this is what this woman is talking about in 1992. I wish to acknowledge the truth of affirmative action's main claim. Historically, women have been the victims of discrimination. During the 18th century, 19th century, they were excluded from universities, unions, barred from professions such as medicine. Upon marriage, often lost all title to whatever they were allowed to earn. Okay, so keeps going, and they said now, the cry for affirmative action makes no sense if the goal is simply equality. So women, it was a problem. So certainly there are vestiges of legal inequality, but the instances are few. For example, women and men often receive different sentences for the same crime. So here, the cry for affirmative action makes no sense if the goal is simply equal treatment before the law. Now, that's the 14th Amendment, right? Mm-hmm. Or the 13th Amendment. I forget, 13th Amendment. So you got to remember, this is all playing into after Civil War. So indeed, this is not the ideal. This is not the ideal being championed. Equal justice before the law and equal access to political power have long been entrenched as American ideals. Affirmative action induces a new concept of equity, social equity. You follow me so far?
Yeah. 13th Amendment, I think, is the no slaves, and 14th is born or naturalized in the United States. And
equal under the law. 14th
Amendment is no slaves.
So 13th is equal under the law. 14th is free to slaves. 15th is blacks could vote. I think that's how it goes. Okay. So here you have equity. Affirmative action induces a new concept of equality. Okay, social equality. They didn't say equity yet, but they're saying equality. Okay, and this became very popular during the 60s. Okay, you could keep going down. And so just keep going down. And I just want to see the last here because people don't see this. And justification for preferential treatment. Again, it's preferential treatment. You're going to bring in a minority. Go all the way down to the end. I don't want to keep reading all of this. There should be at the end. Oh, you went too far. So right here. So it basically says here, unfortunately, you want to read that one?
I don't know where you're looking.
Go all the way down at the bottom. You just give her the last paragraph here.
Unfortunately, theorizing can bring little solace to my friend who is debating whether to abandon the one career that has meant anything to him. There is no encouragement I can give him. What he says is true. No matter how good he is or how much he cares, doors are slammed in his face because he is a white male. I cannot encourage him because I feel almost as outraged as he does. Now, on the flip side, I get that that he's the doors are being shut on him, but the doors were never opened for some people before.
Yes,
this, which is a fair statement.
Okay, and this is why I want to point this out. So what you have here is a lot of people arguing back and forth. A lot of people, minorities and blacks and Hispanics, didn't have access. So we got to give access. So what they did is right in the beginning, they just displaced white people. Had nothing to do. They just throw them out. And then what happened was, though, there was no difference, no evaluation of the qualifications. So you would put people in there who weren't qualified just to meet the quotas. So over time, you had lawsuits, you had all kinds of crazy things going on, and they said, listen, you cannot take somebody out of a job just because they're not a minority if they're not qualified. So it got to the point where affirmative action was you could bring people in, but they had to be equal quality. In fact, UK, some articles here that the United Kingdom passed laws where it's illegal to bring somebody in because of affirmative action if they're not qualified for the job, if they're underqualified. In a lot of places in the United States, lowered the standard. Okay, so we got this. So we kind of understand what affirmative action is. It's bringing in people, whether or not you replace them, they were good or bad. You had a quota, you wanted to do it, and you make good reasons. You're going to make an argument on one side. They weren't even accessed before that, and there's a lot of law to back it up. You have the what do we say? The 13th Amendment or the 14th Amendment, which is equal under the law, and then you had go back up the civil rights laws. I think it was Article 17 or 5, 6, 7. No, you just had it. It was go up. It was down. I'm sorry. What article there? We just had it. It said you went too far. Article right there. So no, I don't see it. There was an article. It said about the keep going. About the civil rights. It mentioned what title in the civil rights of 64. It'll come up 64.
I think it was 7.
67 it said. Can you find it here? So
do you know anything from it? I could type it in the command.
No. It's right here somewhere. Just keep going down.
Yeah,
in the
article. Do you know what it's called?
50,
60, 64?
It said article. It said Article 7, 5, 6, 7. Article 7.
I know. I saw it too, but I don't see it anymore.
All right. Well, listen. So they were basing this. A lot of this came about. You're going too fast. I can't read it. It's go down.
I know what I'm. Yeah.
It came out
Title
of
7.
Title 7. Okay. It was protected by Title 7 of the. Oh, here it is. So Title 7 of the Civil Rights Act of 64. You could spend days looking at the Civil Rights Act of 64, but that opened the door to a lot of things. It opened the door for blacks to have voting rights. The 60s were very tumultuous. You had a lot of rioting, and this was, give a lot of minorities, especially blacks, a lot more rights in the United States. But it also helped the gays, and now it's the transsexual, sorry, are using the Civil Rights Act and the 14th Amendment to push their what they believe is their rights. Okay, so go to the next one. So anyway, so affirmative action was to displace the white men and bring in minorities and try to make things fair. It sounded great, but a lot of people were displaced, and also they brought in a lot of people who are not qualified.
Is this the article you want to look at?
Okay, so this is just around the I want to make sure, because it's not just the United States. So let's just talk about this. So let me go back to I just want to preface what article this is and what date it is. This one. No, go back to that one. Yeah, but I want to see the top of the article. Okay, so this is an article from The Conversation. What's the date here?
Right here.
Okay, so this is Affirmative Action Around the World, published August 7. This is 2017. This is another old article, but this is interesting. So Trump's president of the United States at this point, and as a report, it says reports have surfaced that Trump's administration intend to investigate affirmative action admissions in higher education. This is about the Asians coming in. Are they knocking out Asians, not letting them in? Remember this, all this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And so it was in the past 4 years, United States Supreme Court cases like, can you read that?
Schuett v. Coalition to Defend Affirmative Action and Fisher versus University of Texas Austin have addressed this debate.
Yeah, so go down and read what went on there. So the New York Times calls.
In what the New York Times called a blinkered view on race in America, justices in the 2014 Schuett case ruled 6-2, with Justice Elena Kagan rescuing herself. That voters
recusing herself.
Means
she said I'm not involved because she has personal or potential conflict. Go ahead.
That voters could eliminate affirmative action policies in state public education. 2 years later, however, in the Fisher case, they ruled that the University of Texas Austin affirmative action policy was constitutional, affirming that the goal of a diverse student body with selective colleges and universities is a compelling interest in the U.S.
All right, so go down. So we're just again, we're trying. This is a complex thing, but I'm just trying to, give you an idea. So the Asians now felt that they were being shut out. Okay, back in the day it was the blacks. It still is the blacks. Then you had the women. Now you had the Asians, and then of course you had the gay, and then you have the transgender. So let's just keep going down a little bit. I wanted to show you where a global perspective. So our research has shown that about 1/4 of the world's countries have some form of affirmative action for student admissions, but everything else. So affirmative action is not just a unique process to the United States. Just want to give you that head. Go down a little bit. You don't have to get into the specifics of each country, but I wanted to show here South Africa, programs. Because I mean, South Africa is changing. It was a few white people running the whole black country. It was like probably 90% black, and I don't know, maybe it was 27. I don't know what it was.
Apartheid.
37. Yeah. So keep going down. I just want to.
India is being less coy about who's being targeted, coining the rather blunt term other backward classes as an official designation for one set of recent beneficiaries for affirmative action in higher education. India continues to recognize the importance of caste discrimination, but also includes economic criteria when defining other backward classes. They exclude, for example, individuals whose family income or property exceeds certain limits.
Right. So every country is agonizing over how do you take your population and help people be equal or more equitable,
make
right?
Them all play nice.
Because it's called equity, right? We call it equity. So let's keep going. And beyond race, looking beyond U.S. borders. So just keep going. If anyone wants to look at this, we have it here, and I think that's the end of it. So it's worldwide. Everybody's trying to deal with this. Now let's go to the next article. It gives you a little bit about when this came about, affirmative action. So when did it start? I thought it was the Carter years, and I was wrong. Here's an article. This is an article out of the American Association for Access, Equity, and Diversity, and it says what is affirmative action? Now, when is this article written? Does it say what date?
It might say on the bottom.
So I don't see it. All right, let's just go up here. But this is kind of like a little bit of a historical view. I was going to say you guys could look at this article. You could watch it online here or look at our thing. But it started, again, in the 60s. So you talk about L.B. Johnson. Now, Johnson, Lyndon Baines Johnson, was, he inherited, after Kennedy got killed, he became the president of the United States. And the Vietnam War was raging. And also what was going on was the civil rights riots and acts and all kinds of things going on. And they passed this, civil rights law. And here, so it's interesting. It says right here, it says President Kennedy incorporated the concept of affirmative action into Executive Order 10925, which he issued in 1961. Executive Order 10925 imposed in all covered contractors a general obligation, requiring positive steps designed to overcome obstacles to equal employment opportunity. So it started back then. Again, trying to figure out this stuff. Let's go back down. Keep going. If you see anything you want to pull out,
Yeah. I think like a lot of this legislation is important. I think you're right. We're saying that we withdrew the need for high skilled workers. It became more about like constantly incorporating more and more inclusivity at the cost of value.
Yes, good point. Keep going down. Go and read. You're absolutely right. So here, read this right here. So I want to read this here. Affirmative action itself has been defined as any measure beyond simple termination of a discriminatory practice adopted to correct or compensate for present or past discrimination to prevent discrimination from occurring in the future. That's a heavy battle. You want just think what I just said there. Think about that. How tough that is. That's a heavy. So this is the concept of affirmative action. You make a good point. So say it again. Your perception about affirmative action as we discussed it so far, does what in your mind?
No, I mean it's supposed to include people, which is a good thing.
But the problem is sometimes at the expense.
Not at the cost of skilled laborers or hardworking laborers.
Or generally dumbing down the workforce.
Yeah.
In whatever specialty it is, where you start to have less qualified people and you don't have the best and the brightest. We used to say an analogy: the cream rises to the top.
But it's a double-edged sword. Like
keep going down.
If they don't have the opportunity ever, what's the point? And like,
well, no. You're making two different things. Stop right there. You just said the $50 million thing. Listen, go.
What'd I say?
Go. You said opportunity.
Yeah.
Okay.
This is the land of opportunity.
Right. But here's the thing. We all believe in equality of opportunity. That's So I would say let's focus on giving people opportunity, not. Listen to me now. What I'm saying affirmative action is not equality of opportunity.
Actually, you got the cam on the whiteboard.
I know, I wanted to show it. It's
Okay.
equality. Listen to me. It's equality of outcome, which is equity. It's a big difference. It's different. Affirmative action. Listen to what I'm saying. Affirmative action here is, I think, really affirmative action was a deviation from equality of outcome,
I think what you're trying to say is that
and that's what equity is.
sometimes affirmative action is equality of outcome, but it isn't always.
Well, okay, let's keep going, but I want to make that point because you brought it up. It's better to give everybody opportunity. Like
Yes.
instead of taking somebody who's a minority, whatever they are, say they're green, a green person, somebody who's green.
Okay.
They're Martians. They came down here and they're green, and they're Martians. We got to give them a break, right? They're the new minority. They just came in on rocket ships, okay?
Yeah.
Now, they're dumb as the day is long. I mean, they're not really smart. Martians, we find out, are not that smart. Now, but we got to put them into
workforce.
So we're gonna lower the standard and let them become doctors,
They got to
lawyers.
start making money.
All right, and it's a hard thing to do. But how many can you assimilate, and then do you lower the standard down? And then if you have somebody who's working hard to get to be a doctor, a lawyer, a mason, electrician, whatever it is, and then you're ready to take that job and you do it for a couple of years, and then they fire you, get rid of you, and they bring in somebody who's not as qualified because they want to set the standard. They want to give equity. That's dangerous. You have to be careful with that because you will, first of all, you'll have people will say, why do I have to kill myself? Why do I have to work hard? That's only going to be taken away from me to anyway. And then the other thing is, generally speaking, the profession, whatever it is, you're going to have less and less qualified people. The system's going to start to break down. You need the best and the brightest a lot of times in these industries.
Yeah. What if like the?
You see what I'm saying? Yeah.
I mean, it's complicated. Like
That's where
obviously.
my mind is. Let's go. So I just want to let's finish this article here. Let's just go to the end. So this was around for a long, long time. Are we streaming this? You sure?
Yeah.
Yeah. Did you
Right
check
here.
it out? Yeah. Okay. So let's
See where it
just
says finish.
just keep going down here. I want to make sure it's looking pretty good. Keep going down. I want to go down to the end of the article. So a lot of people don't see this. And wait, stop there. Just go back up a little bit. Just go up where it says success. Okay, successive executive orders on civil rights. Just want to give you a thing. Civil rights has been an issue in this country for years, which is a good thing. This is why let's not throw away what the founding fathers, developed. We've been marching along. When you look at perspective, we are marching along and getting better and better and better. But when you take these big leaps, which is a quality of outcome, which is equity, I think is just burning the ship down. But look here. You look here. Franklin Delano Roosevelt, Executive Order 8802, bans racial discrimination in any defense. They started having, in World War II, you had blacks fighting. They flew planes. They fought in the war. Okay.
Yep.
It's sad when they came home and they had to sit in the back of the bus. But so that was one place they started. Roosevelt, the White Eisenhower took another step in '53. It goes on and on. So you can keep on going down. It's been moving along. Every president, here's you talk about people in government. Here's Assistant Labor Secretary Arthur Fletcher. He's a black guy, and it goes on and on. And this is the one I wanted to talk about. This is interesting. Go down a little bit. So this is one here.
This right here?
No, after implementation of the Philadelphia Plan. This was an interesting thing. You could read about this. And legislation, this is called the Philadelphia Plan. I read about this. Legislation was passed at a federal, state, and municipality levels implementing affirmative action plans using the Philadelphia Plan as a model. To today, almost all government affirmative action plans are offshoots of the Philadelphia Plan. Its mixture of numerical targets and requirements of good faith effort was a milestone in the history of affirmative action. Okay? And now this guy Fletcher, just go up, see if there's where it says what the Philadelphia Plan was. I don't think it said. No, go up a little bit. up the other way, down.
I think
No,
you're
no.
over here, no?
No, I think it's because they just mentioned it. Go up a little bit. See, no, keep going. See if it's up here. One more. See if there's anything Philadelphia plan. No. Anyway, you don't have to go. Just keep going down. So the Philadelphia plan is they tried to blend it. They were working with it where it doesn't knock off people who are not qualified. Nixon talked about the Philadelphia plan. There it is.
The Philadelphia Plan implemented under President Nixon. This plan required contractors doing business with the federal government to commit themselves to self-determined numerical goals for minorities. By withstanding challenges both in Congress and the courts, the Philadelphia Plan helped establish affirmative action as a way of life for American employers. Indeed, employers often embraced affirmative action as a good business practice, enabling them to tap into larger, more diverse, and more qualified pools of talent.
Right. So the key here was, after there was arguments going back and forth, they said, listen, we want to bring people in who are good and qualified. So that was the problem. The whole thing was people liked the idea of affirmative action, but you had to be qualified, and you didn't want to displace qualified workers, whether or not they're white, black, or whatever they are. To bring in these these other.
Sounds pretty good.
Right. Okay. But what happened was they were displacing a lot of people who are qualified. Let's go to the next one. Affirmative action. There's another article here. So go to the next one.
This is the Wikipedia.
Okay, that's fine. Just this here. So this is just a Wikipedia, again, affirmative action, a definition. And the definition here is affirmative action, also known as positive action or positive discrimination. It's pretty interesting now. This is a Wikipedia description. And I like this. Affirmative action is also known as positive action or positive discrimination. Now, have you ever heard that? It's positive discrimination.
I've never heard of positive discrimination.
Okay, this is Wikipedia. I mean, I'm not making this up, and there it is right there. So it involves sets of policies and practices within the government or organizations seeking to include particular groups based on their race. Listen, based on their gender, race, sexuality, creed, or nationality in areas in which such groups are underrepresented, such as education and employment. Historically and intentionally, support for affirmative action has sought to achieve goals such as bridging inequalities in employment and pay, increasing access to education, promoting diversity, that's the big word now, and redress apparent past wrongs. Now, the whole thing about this, if you continue to read this, is that the problem, when they don't say about, it says particular groups based on their, it says involves sets of policy practice to seek to include particular groups based on gender, race, sexual, creed, or nationality. But what about talent? What about expertise? See, it's kind of lost in the fog here, and this is where affirmative action went afoul. I know I was there. I'm going to make you an example, which I saw my dad. My dad worked at General Motors in Linden. Okay. They were mostly, probably a lot of white. My father was worked at General Motors before World War II, went into the war, fought in the war, came back, and he worked in General Motors. I think a lot of people in General Motors working there on the line and were white, okay? So affirmative action started kicking in. This is after the war, going to the 50s and 60s, especially after the civil rights, Johnson amendments and civil rights laws. And they said, listen, you got to have a representative of minorities in the factory here. So Linden probably had, say, like 20% black people. So they said, okay, hey, the factories in Linden, you got to bring these people in. So they started displacing other people, white people. Mm-hmm. And they actually had the Ku Klux Klan outside, bitch, moaning, and groaning. I'm not saying it was wrong, but I'm just telling you the fact. This is what happened. I know my dad was telling me about this. And so they were struggling. They had to encourage people to come in. And I'm not saying that the people who they brought in, not all of them weren't qualified, but a lot of them weren't. They needed to fit a quota. They were compelled by the government to do this. And they had 3 shifts. They had 8-hour shifts, 3 8-hour shifts. They were building Oldsmobiles and Cadillacs 24 hours a day. One car off the line every day. And what happened with the Cadillac and Oldsmobile, the quality of the cars went down. Was it because of affirmative action? was it because of Japan?
They were
Was
making Cadillacs in New Jersey?
they made Cadillacs and Oldsmobiles 24 hours a day for years.
Wow.
Years and years. Plant was huge. Think about it. A car a minute. 60 cars an hour. You could do the math. And they imported them all around the world. Cadillacs and Oldsmobiles.
You know they make Jeeps in Italy now? They don't even make them in America? Because I
well,
think Fiat bought it out.
Cars were big in this country. Cars were made, and it was a big industry. That's another whole thing. Everything got taken out. But you know who beat them up was Japan.
They make good
And
cars.
you know why? The quality. I had a Cadillac. My father wanted me to get it. It was the essence of reaching the
It's
pinnacle.
Americana Cadillac.
But I tell you what, that thing was a piece of shit. It fell apart. It fell apart, and it was. Now again, was it the affirmative action and there's a lot of good to affirmative action. Don't get me wrong.
Absolutely.
But if you're not careful with it, you get a downside. There's an ugly side. There's a bad side. There's a price you pay. The price you pay is you get a lot of good talent out of there. You might stifle people who want to be entrepreneurs. And he was telling me it was people who were coming in there.
No, and think about it
you see what I'm saying?
No, but with any race or with anybody, like, I can't be fired because they need to have be in here. So no matter what I do, I can't lose this job.
Exactly. So it sets up. It's not.
That's for all races.
It's all races. It has not, right. No, I agree with you 100%. And when you take the incentive out, cream rises to the top, entrepreneurial, the best, competition, everybody's fighting for that job. You lose a lot on the other end. So let's go. Here's an interesting down here. It says, in the United Kingdom, hiring somebody, let me just go to, this is a great one here. So, here, you went to, go down. You're
I'm
missing
trying to
everything.
get everything.
Okay, but I need to read up here. Okay. In some jurisdictions where quotas were not used, now quotas were bad. Quota means you have to have a certain amount. That's bad. So in certain jurisdictions where quotas were not used, minority group members are given preference or special consideration in selection process. Now I'm going on and on and on. But here, in the United Kingdom, hiring someone simply because of their protected group status without regard to their performance is illegal. See that? Mm-hmm. So they in the United Kingdom. So, however, the law in the United Kingdom does not allow for membership in a protected and disadvantaged group to be considered in hiring and promoting when the group is underrepresented in the area of the candidate of equal merit. It's a little bit complicated, but basically what they're saying here is that they understood and they realized that, like you said, when you have quotas and you bring people in, there's a disincentive for them to be productive, and also you disincentivize the people who were productive because they could lose their job, and then you're bringing in people who are not qualified, and they were lowering the standard. They lowered the standard in a lot of places. So if you couldn't get enough people to meet the standard for, say, being a police officer, well, then you lower the standard. Okay, now I think the standard to become a cop used to be, it was, high school, then it went to 4 years of college. Now I think it's back to high school again. Mm-hmm. You see? And it goes up and down. Now, is that good or bad? All right, so anyway, that's affirmative action. Let's go to the next one.
10 myths?
Yeah, and so this is admits of, this is 10 myths about affirmative action. I don't want to get into this heavy duty, but so there's myth one, and people can look at this. When was this article written? Let me just. So this is confluence and what do you call it? You went to the top. I just want to say. This essay appeared. Okay, there it is. The essay appeared in 1997. This is issued in the issue of JSI entitled "Affirmative Action." Linking research policy and implementation.
Journal of Social Issues.
Okay, just go down a little bit. I want to say myth one, the only way to create a colorblind society is to adopt colorblind policies. Just keep going down. Affirmative actions have not succeeded in increasing female and minority representation. The third myth, and you could read all this. Affirmative action may have been necessary 30 years ago, but the playing field is fairly level today. This is 20 years ago this article was written, by the way, or 30 years. The public doesn't support affirmative action anymore. Large percent of white workers will lose out if affirmative action is continued. Just keep going down. This is myth. If Jewish or Asian Americans can rapidly advance economically, African Americans should be able to do the same. And, all these myths. You can't cure discrimination. You can't cure discrimination. Where was that? You went
up, yeah.
With you can't cure discrimination with discrimination. Remember we said positive discrimination. That's what affirmative action is, according to Wikipedia. And then affirmative action tends to undermine the self-esteem of women and racial minorities. This is all myths. So it goes on and on and on. Support for affirmative action means support for preferred selection procedures that favor unqualified candidates over qualified candidates. That's the big
number 9.
I'm sorry. Affirmative action is nothing more than an attempt at social engineering by liberal Democrats. This is what our this was 91. The Democrats have been beaten up for years. They're like the anti, the worst. But I think if you look at this, I like this one. Support for affirmative action means support for preferential selection procedures that favor unqualified candidates over qualified. So let's just dig. Now, this is in 91. This is obviously, this person is going to give their opinion why that's not the case. The bitch was about all of this is that you're bringing in people who are not qualified, okay? Because you want to try to set the record straight, kind of. So the idea, the thought of it, I agree with that. You agree with it. We want to help, if you have minorities, they're underrepresented, you want to try to bring them in. But what's the best way? I think give them more opportunity, teach them better, get them better education, get them out of poverty. But
I think the bigger issue with this is just how long it takes for a legislation to be done and then redone after it was already implemented. Because you have to go to the deep end to find out like that was too far.
Right.
Like because we're still kind of in this boat of unqualified candidates being chosen over qualified just because there are still quotas.
Yeah, well, there are, and we didn't get away from it. And there's lawsuits.
It's 50, we were talking about Lyndon B. Johnson. That was the 60s.
Yeah. So we're still arguing about this. We're still fighting about it. So we're going on and on and on and on. Just go to the bottom of this. And she talks about how, she doesn't think that. Doesn't think that, we're getting people who are unqualified. But at the end here it says, by distinguishing among these 4 different selective procedures, it becomes clear that opposition to strong selection procedures need not imply opposition to milder ones. Basically, the argument is, it's not as clear cut as that. So let's go to the next. I think that's it.
Entirely different topic.
Yeah. So let's just go. Don't go to here yet. I don't go for that. So just go to me. All right. So affirmative action, we see it has a long history. So now let's go to today. Because did you ever hear of affirmative action before I brought it up? Did you understand it?
I've heard about this.
Okay. But I lived through it. I saw it. I saw it when it was implemented the first time, and all the gyrations we went through, and it's been around a long time. And a lot of it was blacks in the beginning. Then it's women, gay. Now transgender, transsexual.
Next, it's going to be AI. Watch
AI, right? Transgender is probably the last one. So affirmative action. So now we have, and you talk about Lincoln, Kennedy, even though they were hoping to push forward affirmative action, they believed the best way to do it was a short fix. That was, we got to do it now, but you really want to have equality of opportunity. Now, what do I mean by that? Well, everybody should have an opportunity to go to school. Everybody should have an opportunity to have a safe environment. Education is a big thing. Have a place to live. Transportation. All the things that are needed for you to rise to the top. Now, not everybody's going to rise to the top because not everybody's as smart as everybody else. I can't throw a ball 100 miles an hour or 98 miles an hour. I'll never be playing pro ball. Okay.
Tom Brady couldn't throw the ball hard, Cash. Don't
No,
sell yourself short.
but trust me. So I got friends who will never be a doctor because they can't get through the chemistry. Everybody has their good points and bad points, but not everybody could be doing everything. But you want to have a world where there's opportunity. Now I was just talking while I was doing my surgery. I was talking to the resident. He's from India. And he says there's a quota system, A lot of times you can't do anything. You can't become a doctor. You can't do this. You have to, fit into a certain quota. It's not cream rises to the top. There's not a lot of opportunity for people. And that's the problem. In the United States, it's always been like that. The other thing is, you can't own property if you're not a citizen of like, say, India, or a lot of countries. you come here, you can own property. You don't even have. You could be an alien. You don't have to be an American citizen to own property. That's a unique thing in the world. So this country, there's a lot of opportunity. That's my point. You could buy houses and make money. So now somebody came along. They weren't happy with affirmative action the way it was moving along, and these probably are some of the purists who believe that you should throw the friggin' white people out and bring in whatever. And so they come up with this idea, in my opinion, this is what they're doing. It's called equality of outcome. Now, when we say equality of outcome, that means you want to be an airline pilot, you want to be a belly dancer, you want to be a rock star. Well, we should push that. If you should be able, everybody should be making, $100,000 a year, $200,000 a year. And we call that equity. So now there's a push for this equity. Mm-hmm. Equity, again, everybody has to be equal. Everybody has to have the same outcome. That's an impossible, in my opinion, impossible goal. And the reason why I say that, the amount of government that you have to have is huge. And it keys down. It makes the idea, if somebody gives you the money or subsidizes you, why are you going to work hard? Why are you going to achieve things? A great example is the old example. You and I go to college, right? And I work my ass off. I work my ass off. I study every day. I get A's. And I got a grade A, an A average. You, on the other hand, party all night long. Do whatever you want to do. Don't give a shit. Live it up, and you get F's and D's, and you come out with a D. And at the end, the school says, we're going to take from you, Kachmar, your A, and give it to Sean. So both of you will have a C or a B, whatever it turns out. And I sit there, and you're like, hey, that's great. I didn't do shit. But then I'm sitting there going, well, I work my ass off. Now, the next guy who sees that behind me is going to why am I going to work my ass off? I'll do what Sean did. It starts to deteriorate the whole thing. So there's a bad side to it that way. So I think what happened was with this equity thing, people have trying to sidestep the affirmative action, the bad things about affirmative action, or people forgot about it, renamed it. This new administration and the new left, they renamed it with their same old thing. And I think part of their agenda is because they really hate, or not hate, I shouldn't be so strong, but they really, it's almost this idea of, throw the baby out with the bathwater. You can't, there's inadequacies, there's prejudice, there's still, bad things in this country, but it's slowly and surely getting better and better. We had a black president. We have probably I don't know how many black congressmen, senators, minorities all across the board. I operated today in the operating room. Probably 70% of the people in there are non-white, and they're all, doctors, lawyers. They're all, high-level practitioners, mm-hmm. and they're good what they're doing. So it's coming along. I don't think we should be having equity and having equality of outcome. I think we should still go with equality of opportunity and let the system, pump along, and don't discourage the best and the brightest from getting better. That's my point. Now, so that's where I wanted to talk about today, about this equity and affirmative action. What's your so all that you learned now?
Yeah, I think you summed it up. I think you want people to work hard and do.
But do you believe in should we be pushing people, and should we have quotas? Like say,
there's definitely good parts to this legislations that happened.
Well,
100%.
Okay, but what would you push for now? Like I'll give you an example. I'm trying to think. Maybe there's a place where, it's a college. It's just all white kids. Would you go in there and say, hey, listen, you got to bring in 20% black and force them if they're going to take their federal aid away, or, like what? How far do you go?
Maybe there's an alternative, or incentives to diversification instead of like demands.
Well, give me one. Can you give me one?
Money from the government,
subsidized.
Yeah.
So now I was just reading. You talk about equity and all of this. The Biden administration now, I just read, they're going to do it for mortgages. And so listen to this one. What they're going to do with mortgages, and this is on the news, just by the way, you could read about it. They're going to do, if you have bad credit, very bad credit, okay, they're going to give you preferential and better rates on a mortgage than if somebody has good rates. So they're going to So if you have good rates and good credit scores, you're going to pay more on your mortgage than somebody who doesn't. The idea is to help those other people, but they're going to offset it by you. So in other words, this is right in, and again, the way I read it is that it's not just this federal government's going to subsidize people with poor credit. They're going to subsidize it by the mortgages to the people who have good credit and charging them more. So you're going to be paying another $100, $200 a month on your mortgage. I don't know if did you see that?
No, I hear it, but a lot of this stuff just sounds like
What?
Just faceless people or faceless entities beating down on like the small man, like the poor people.
Well, everybody. I mean, middle class. I mean, so.
But no, I'm including middle class when I say like small people, poor people.
But understand the premise here, where people start going into like, say, that's communism. If you're trying to redistribute wealth, so people who
like in like wealth percentiles now, like middle class is like so far down compared to like how much money the the top 1% has at this point.
Yeah. So but I'm just saying we're still going into this thing where we're still trying to figure out how to fix inadequacies, but maybe so you're gonna people who don't spend a ton of money, don't control their credit, maybe they're train wrecks, maybe it's their own fault. I mean, there's no where's the responsibility? So there's this level, and how much am I want to work and how much do I want to do when I got to pay more on a mortgage now and to subsidize people who are maybe lazy, who don't want to work. Again, it's a whole thing. But I just think that where we're going in this country with this, we went from affirmative action.
I think a lot of it's white noise to distract people from like actually being able to accomplish things.
Well, anyway, I just thought we'd give it. I thought this was something interesting because when I saw this, this thing, this is my pet peeve because right now the whole if you go look at Lincoln, you read his books, it's all about equality of opportunity. The Civil War was for that, to give everybody equal under the law, everybody to have equal opportunity. Before that, or even after that, women didn't have equal opportunity. They wanted for the blacks, and they had equal, but they still, the Jim Crow laws, and then you had a whole nother gyration in the 60s. And then, of course.
Yeah, and that's something totally, like, that's real, like, lack of equality.
Oh, yeah. Oh, absolutely. No, listen, there was, it's a dark side of our country.
We've come a long way.
Right. But you can't go so far. In other words, I think what I'm saying is we're banging on a door of going too far, too crazy.
Yeah.
You can't, like I said, you can't cure discrimination with more discrimination. Wikipedia calls affirmative action.
So are you against government incentives to because like at the end of the day, if America's running properly, like we should be making a lot of money. Like the government should be making a lot of money. If the people are successful, the government will be successful.
Well, I
so
tell
like government subsidiaries should be more plausible or like less impactful on the overall economy if the people are doing well.
Well, I know everybody's bitching about the economy is terrible, inflation's high, but right now the government's still sucking in a ton of money on taxes. Record highs, so it's not. I don't know where it's all coming from.
It's going to people's pockets.
No, but forget about where it's going. It's still going into the government. Now, the government's pulling in a lot of money right now. Now, maybe that's going to change. The economy there's a lot of sectors that are bad. Inflation is high, but when you look at the economy and you try to gauge how things are, it's how the common man, how people interpret. There's still a lot of poor people, and it's not just it's all different kind of people. So when you say,
well, I'm saying like white noise and distractions, like there's outlying effects pushing down on people, keeping them poor.
Yeah, like what? Give me an for instance. I know what you're saying, but I mean, I was going to make a point, but go ahead. I want to hear it. Discrimination?
Passing out the Biden administration passing out heroin needles so they could practice heroin safely, quote unquote.
Yeah, well, drug addiction. It's
just like fueling drug addiction essentially.
It's tough. It's tough, but there's a lot. I'm just looking at here. There's a lot. There's a lot that goes on. My whole thing here, and I think we could end it. We're getting pretty. We did a pretty good show. Is this you have always been discrimination, minorities, people that we're trying to bring up. In India, you have 300 million people that are starving to death every minute. They're poor as all hell. They got a caste system, and it's not. They're the biggest democracy, but Those people don't have democracy. You have China, where probably 1 billion people are slaves, institutional slaves.
And actual slaves with the Uyghurs.
Yeah, right. And in the United States, I think our poor here are probably the richest poor in the world.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay? But we still have a lot of problems. And some of it is drug addiction. People are depressed, mental health. There's a lot of things. We have maybe 12 million people in the United States weigh between 500 and 1,000 pounds. We have the heaviest people in the world.
Yeah, it's the first time in history that the poor people are fat.
We're eating ourselves to death. We're so affluent that we're killing ourselves. So it goes on and on and on. But what I'm just saying is that to solve our problems, I don't think this positive discrimination, which is equity,
Yeah, no, it's
is
bad.
a good way to go.
It puts us against each other.
Right.
You're only as good as the worst person on your team, and if you look at us all as a team, we're not a championship team anymore.
Right. And that's what I wanted to bring up. We, like when Buttigieg, the department head of the transportation department, he was commenting about 35,000 people a year die from car accidents. It used to be 60, 70 before all the safety belt and the airbags. Airbags were a big savior. When airbags first came out, right? I was around. You know how many people who, if they had an airbag and they didn't use a safety belt, it blew their head off. It decapitated them. Go look it up right now.
That's funny.
No, it's not funny. It's sad. But
yeah.
Go see how many people were had we forget about history, but Buttigieg. So we have a huge curve in a downward spiral of people dying in car accidents. The other thing that right here. See, 1996, airbag concerns heightened after child is decapitated. Idaho decapitated airbag.
Wow.
Yeah.
A little fender bender too.
It doesn't matter. What happens is before they perfected it, right? If you didn't have a safety belt on, what happens? Listen to me. You hit something like a curb or something. It's a little bump. It didn't stop the car. You go forward a little bit because it's slowed down your momentum of your body, and then you hit the tree and the airbag blows up. Now you're over the airbag and it lifts your head right up. That's why you can't put a kid in the front seat.
It's not funny.
No,
Like an ejector seat.
Yeah, inject. But you hold on this one. Don't put this up yet. I want.
It's not up. I just.
So the what was my point now? So the whole concept of equality and helping people out. Oh, with Buttigieg. So he was talking about talk about divide. He's talking about there's a lot of people dying in car accidents. Well, you had mothers for MAD, mothers for drunk driving. That stopped a lot of deaths. A lot of people with drunk driving getting killed. But even though we're on top of it, people are still doing it. People still drive recklessly. Now it's not what do you call it? Alcohol. It's marijuana. It's cocaine. It's all kinds of things. Bad behavior. But what he said was that one of the reasons why people are dying in car accidents is that this is a systemic racist country. That the roads are built by white people. I mean, see, this is the kind of bullshit.
Yeah, it gets
bullshit.
us arguing. It gets the people down.
I mean, the guy, talk about. I could throw it out and be a little bit, nasty. He's an affirmative action hire, and maybe he's not qualified to be where he should be. That's my point. I'm not saying he
You think Fauci back in the day was an affirmative action hire because he's Italian?
Tell you what, Fauci's. I know him back from the AIDS days, and there was a lot of controversy.
Yeah.
Go look at what happened back then. They almost locked him up back then. That guy is shaky. All right, so let's end this now. Do we agree? Did I persuade you that affirmative action, that equity is not a good thing?
Equity of outcome is not a good thing. Affirmative.
Wow. Equality of outcome. Wait, equality of outcome. You don't like. Good.
There are positives to affirmative action for sure.
All right. Yes.
Yeah.
So we should go back to the affirmative action. It was to a level where it's a fair playing field. But even affirmative action, remember, it's positive discrimination. It should be used very, very. And I don't know if we still need it or not. So anyway, let's see. So for people out there, I just want to give a shout out. I'm Dr. Michael Kachmar. This is Jersey Shore Foot and Leg Center. And if you want to get a hold of us, it's drkachmar@icloud.com, That's drkachmar@icloud.com. I want to listen. We have 59. I want to just spend 5 more minutes on one article here, which really just drove me crazy. And I know
I just got rid of it.
no, bring it back. Oh, we got it. It's in our notes here. So this one here is just not the family, the other one, the one with the military. So I had to throw this out here because
7-year-old?
yeah, because this is crazy. This is crazy town. This is crazy town. It's with the military. You can go in the notes. Just pull it out of the while I talk. Out of the mail. So this is crazy. And what was that?
A notification from something.
Oh, it should be the military. So what I read this article here. So the military comes out. There's like 3 or 4 doctors, and they are saying that they believe that a 7-year-old has the ability to what do you call it? To decide on gender care.
Yes.
7-year-old. All right, this is the military now. Now, you got to understand, people who are in the military, they go to a military base, you have military doctors there. And, they're kind of, they got to, no, that's not it. That's not it. You still don't have it yet.
I'm trying to find it. Here it is.
So, okay, here it is. So pull this up for me now. I want to show people this. So, what are you doing here?
I'm pulling it up.
Okay. So here it is here. Can you get rid of that Fox thing? I can't see there. I want to read the article.
This?
That's in the way. Yeah, so go up. I want to read that. So here, Pentagon doctors claim. Now, this is an article out of Fox News. People are like, oh, Fox News. March 22nd, 2023. It says, Pentagon doctors claim 7-year-olds can make decisions to be injected with hormones, puberty suppressants. Listen, right now, New Jersey, age of consent is 16. They want to go to 13. I'm not so sure, but I think, I'm not 100% sure, so if anybody wants to, get me on this, but I think if you're 16 years old, you can make the medical decision to get puberty blockers, and the state of New Jersey will pay for it. And I don't know if you have to let your parents know. I know they're pushing for that, okay? I know you can get an abortion at 12, 13, 14, anything under 18. You can sign your own consent.
This isn't in legislation yet. This is just a doctor in the Pentagon.
Well, this is what they're saying, right?
Yeah.
Right. But there's a push for this now. So here, so health providers at U.S. military bases, some of whom are involved in the treating military-connected minors, blasted the idea of waiting before injecting kids diagnosed with gender dysphoria with puberty blockers and hormones. So they're saying you got to start this sooner than later. This is where the argument is in the United States. And, should you have this treatment early? Because if not, the outcome could be bad. The other people say, no, if you do it now, the outcome could be bad.
Yeah.
If you do it or don't. And if you, have surgery done at a young age, you'll be better off in the long run. Other people saying, no, it's not right. So now you have the states going back and forth. Some states are banning it. Some states are pushing it. So it's an interesting thing. And again, they're talking about equity. Here it is. Doctors said that on the basis of human rights, youths have an inherent ability and right to consent to gender-affirming therapy. Let's stop there for a minute. In the age of sexual consent, you could have a 60-year-old guy having sex with a 16-year-old girl. She can consent to it. It's illegal in New Jersey. Let me ask you this. If the girl's 12 years old or 14, can she consent to sex? Or do they have the human right to do what they want to do?
Are you asking me?
Yeah.
I don't think a 16-year-old has that right.
Okay. Well, so can they have a right to have decisions by themselves on medical care as something that could be permanent as puberty blockers, or for that matter, genital surgery?
The Pentagon thinks so.
All right. Well, there you go. Now, my thing about this is, at the very least, the parents should be involved. I don't believe that a child, and what do you want to pick the age, under 18, should be making decisions. 17, okay, whatever. But somewhere along the line, they should not be making decisions without the parents. This is a fundamental argument in the United States. And it's going to be, the presidential race. We're going to be talking about that. What are you reading? You got to read something.
The author's David A. Klein. This is of the Pentagon schools infested with shocking. No. The DoD provider said in the March edition of the American Journals of Public Health article, the authors David A. Klein and Thomas Baxter, Noel S. Larson, as well as clinical psychologist Natasha
God bless you.
A. Chevy, PhD, demanded the military train all of its providers on their ideas on gender medical interventions for minors, despite over half of them military-affiliated physicians in the Department of Defense health system indicated they would refuse to prescribe hormones to
regardless of any training.
Yeah.
So you have this division in here. This is a hot topic. Now you got to remember, Dwight Eisenhower, one of the first places they fought discrimination with black and Franklin Delano Roosevelt is in the military. Black men and soldiers were equal to white. So there is a history of good. Is this good or bad? Are we? So
this is something totally different than affirmative action.
Okay, right. Okay, and there you go. And this is something that, so here you go. So some well-intentioned military affiliated clinicians may not be aware that a watchful waiting approach has a different risk profile than a gender-affirming approach. This is a great article. I want to go over this. This is, and then we'll finish up here. This is a guy, I think his name is Goldberg or Goldfarb, but
this is David A. Klein.
No, but the guy who wrote this is a guy Goldfarb. Go down. No, this is another guy who's just let me paraphrase this here. So listen to this. Some well-intentioned military affiliated clinicians may not be aware that a watchful wait approach has a different risk profile than a gender affirming approach, which allows for gender identity exploration, evaluation. And that conversion therapy is unethical, harmful, and generally illegal, they say. Patients may face gatekeeping and major delays in care, including protracted and pathologizing psychiatric evaluations that question patients' motives. So keep going down a little bit. This is interesting. This is how the argument is. Laws banning transgender drugs assume that transgender diversity adolescents and their parents are incapable of understanding the risks and benefits of gender-affirming medical care and then deciding what is the youth's best interest. The doctor continues, prior research has found that children can begin participating in their medical decision-making as early as 7 years with gradual increase in decision-making capacity, and adolescents, prefer shared decision-making. Now, this guy, Dr. Stanley Goldfarb of Do Not Harm, an organization of physicians seeking to restore the medical position and profession to the Hippocratic Oath, which means first do no harm, disputes the claims made by the DoD doctors, calling them laughable.
Okay.
And he goes here, the notion that 7-year-old children are capable of such decisions beyond laughable. And the existence of large, perhaps as much as 25% cohort of, what happened? De-transitioners suggests the folly of assuming the soundness of childhood decisions. And this is a new thing now. You talk about this transition. So they had it and they want to go back now.
Yeah, they're pulling all these people out, just trying to get people
who was subjected
to. This is what I'm saying. Where I think a lot of this is noise. Like I think this is just getting us all angry at each other. But
I'm not. But here's the thing: you have tons of people who are having these surgeries right now. I think the state of New Jersey is doing thousands. There's thousands of them doing now. They're getting thousands of kids on puberty blockers.
No, it's really happening.
It's happening. I'm not angry. I'm just saying.
No, I'm not saying you are.
Are we as a society? Listen. I know you have a different approach.
People are angry. I'm not saying you are.
No. But I know you have a different approach. And I'm not criticizing you that you feel like, hey, listen, so what? Let them do what they want to do, kumbaya. But as a society, we somewhere along the line, we have to say, hey, listen, this is not right. This is not good. We're doing things that are not appropriate. And I think here, I mean, you actually have the military, which is,
But same thing like I was saying before. You have to let people go into the deep end to find out what that's the sad truth of reality.
Good point. Good
Yeah.
point. From a lifeguard metaphor.
Yeah.
Let them go in the deep end and drown a little bit.
Yeah, like that's
Or
it.
drown, and then they stay away. You know, what is it? Survival of the fittest.
Like I think people like hyping all of this up just gets people angry at each other. Like, we have so much
Keep going down.
anger in this country right now, and it's just it doesn't.
Yeah. This girl had, this is interesting too when you operate on children. This is something I know because when you operate on kids, they're still growing even though you remove their breasts and the scar tissue, you know, because they're still growing. So this girl here, and I hear this a lot, Cole was put on puberty blockers and testosterone at 13. This is I guess this was a girl. She underwent a double mastectomy at 15. Now, that's the legal age with parents' consent. You could get a mastectomy in New Jersey and I think in Massachusetts, okay? She later, because it's not genital surgery because your boobs are considered not genital.
Yeah.
Don't go to, I want to read
It's right
it.
here. I'm just looking.
I lost my place. Okay. A procedure, okay. So I wasn't, no, you go back up. You went too far.
It's right here then.
No.
I didn't miss anything.
Okay, let me just say. So here it is. No, it says she later transitioned. So here she had underwent double mastectomy at 15. She later transitioned and accused her doctors at Kaiser Permanente of depriving her of informed consent. Kaiser Permanente has denied the allegations. Stop there. 15-year-olds should not be giving consent. There's one problem, and it's good. Let her sue because you know what's going to happen. I would take her case and I'd say, you know what? You shouldn't. She's too young to consent. There you go. So that's what you need. And I hope she should sue and get tens of millions out. Now, I wasn't really allowed any time to just be observed alone without intervention. I mean, it was only about half a year between being diagnosed with gender dysphoria and actually being medicated. So the process for me was very expedited, and there weren't really any pushbacks from any medical professionals. Cole reported that the double mastectomy procedure caused fluid to leak. They used skin grafts as part of it. 2 years after the surgery, I thought the healing was going well, save for the grafts being slightly dry on the surface, but they start to leak fluid, and I've had start wearing bandages over again. I hear that a lot. But here's the thing: where's the parents? Now, were the parents allowed?
They might have supported it in the beginning too.
Maybe they were, maybe they didn't. So there's the issue. You know, so first of all, you got to bring parents into the fray here, and keep going down. And so anyway, it's sad. It's a tough one. So it's a tough one, and it's interesting. That's Goldfarb, and he says these people are crazy. You could shut that down. We're gonna pack this in. But I think that the whole thing here is like you make a good point about where we're going, and it just gets us angry. But this is kids. This is children. It's a big business. There's 15 codes in New Jersey for NJ Health, which is the welfare, Medicaid in the state. And there, if you take the parents out of the process and you get these kids who are 12, 13, 14 years old, I don't think they can make their own decisions. If the doctor makes it for it and the state, and then they pay for the surgery and they put these kids under, that's crazy. We
live in crazy times. People
this is just out of control. Anyway, let's end it with this.
Decaying empire, Kachmar.
Okay. Anyway, listen. Thank you for listening, everyone. We are. What's going on here? Why don't we hear this here? There it is.
Follow us at drkachmar at iCloud.com, Jersey Shore Foot and Leg Center.com.
And
because you know what we should talk about one time? Steph Curry.
Who?
Steph Curry. You know who he is?
No.
A basketball player, best shooter to ever done it. He had ankle issues. The beginning of his career, he almost had to stop playing.
All right.
He went to New York, got surgery done to remove scar tissue in his ankles.
Oh yeah.
And now has become one of the most prolific players to ever have done it.
Yeah. We'll talk about that. The other thing is, let's talk about. We have a companion show. It's called Lifeguards Off Duty. We do that every week. It's on the same channels. Look for us. It's Lifeguards Off Duty with Dr. Kachmar.
Like and subscribe to that too.
Yeah. And also, for anybody who's watching this local, we have the lifeguard test coming up for Seaside Heights. Do you remember the dates by any chance?
Not
I think it's, you could go on to Facebook, Seaside Heights Facebook. And I think the dates are the first one is April 28th. I want to say it's a Sunday at 12 to 1. Let me see how good I am. I think so it's April 28th, and I think May 1st.
30th.
Okay, April 30th. So this is Seaside Heights Beach Patrol, Seaside Heights, New Jersey, where the test is in Toms River Fitness Center, Route 37. It's a 500-meter swim. This is for USO. This is for lifeguards in Seaside Heights. So the first one is April 30th. The second one is May 7th. The third one is May 21st. Bring your bathing suit. You got to be 16, right? 16. Yep. Our starting pay is $16 an hour. It's a great place to work. If you think you're tough enough and you want to work on one of the best beach patrols in the world, come on out. We don't mess around. We run a tight ship, and you'll enjoy it. And you got to work out. I mean, we run, we swim.
Get some vitamin D in you. Yeah,
get some vitamin D. You get some sun, and you might learn a few things, right? So anyway, thank you, everyone. Anyway, we're gonna say we can't say stay out and stay alive, because that's our thing. But thank you. So we have Sean. Thank you, Sean.
No problem.
We have our beautiful studio here. We just had it remodeled, and here we are. So thank you very much, everyone, and we'll see you next week. Take care.